Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a tactics talk and a tank review of a brand new premium tank. This is a Chinese Tier 8 light tank. Well, actually, it's Taiwanese, and it lives in the Chinese line. How's that actually going down in China? Are the Taiwanese flags and tanks actually in the China? I bet they're not. I'd be willing to bet they are not. Or they have Chinese symbols on them or something. Anyway, I don't know. Let me know if you've played on the Chinese server or have any SA. But that has nothing to do with what we're doing. We are doing a review on this. We're going to do it the standard way. And I have one alibi. So we'll do an overview. We'll take a look at the tech tree considerations with this tank. Look at the 3D model. Do a comparison amongst some of its peers. Look at its stats. That's where my alibi comes from. I have only played 4 games in this tank. Why? Because I have extensive experience in the M41 Walker Bulldog, and this is a copy pasta tank. It really is. When I did a little research, I did some scholarship for you guys. All right, I dug deep. I got to Google and I typed in M41D. And I clicked on the first link. That's what passes for scholarship these days, fellas. That's how it works. Threw me off for a bit because while I immediately said this is Taiwanese, I did not know that at first. I'm thinking, oh, the Chinese had a bulldog. They must have got it before things went sour. And then I thought, wait a minute, that's too modern of a tank. But anyway, it's Taiwanese. So that explains it. I've only played 4 battles then. So we'll take my stats with a grain of salt. Kind of funny actually, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. We'll look at my setup and I'll got 2 examples of gameplay for you guys. So let's get started with the overview. As noted, it's a copy pasta. This is a Walker Bulldog, an M41, a Delta version, upgraded by the Taiwanese. Got a new engine, which helped it out a bit, and it has the Mark 32 gun, the same one the Walker Bulldog does, but it's apparently an upgraded one. We'll take a look at the stats. That is mirrored in its stats. Its gun is better, even though it's roughly the same 76 millimeter. It says a total of 400 vehicles were modernized. The source I looked at said they had 400 of these. I don't know. Since my scholarship only went so far as to Google it once, I couldn't tell you. But the good news is this is, if you're the historical kind of person and don't like fantasy tanks, well, this one actually existed. So there you have it. As far as the size goes, it is big like most of the American Bulldog variants. That one, you got the, look at that, they're all the same tank, right? M4190 millimeter GF, so that's the German one, the American one, and now the Taiwanese one. The 432 is much lower slung, but quite a bit longer. Things like the Hawk, kind of a little box, but even smaller. The WZ, which is the other Chinese Tier 8, is actually kind of a comparable size. It's just not as tall, and it's got that really rounded troll turret on there, so you can get some decent bounces off that bad boy. That's pretty much it. And you got the little bat chatalian thing right there. I know I said that right. I'm certain I did. So basically what we got here is a Walker Bulldog. Let's move on to the tech tree considerations. Tech tree considerations. It is a premium. There are no modules to unlock, so nothing to worry about right there. The scout line for the Chinese splits off at the Type T34. The Type T34 has 4 crew, but it's a different configuration than your scout configuration. It's got a radio operator. However, the Walker Bulldog, or the M41 Delta Walker Bulldog, is the same crew configuration for all of the Chinese light tanks. So you're good to go. You can move any of these crews into your Walker Bulldog, and you will be fine. I believe the Type 62, which is not here in the tech tree, but you can buy on occasion, has that set up. The Type 64 has the same guys, but it's got an extra, I believe, radio operator in it. So interestingly, the Chinese have a 6, a 7, and an 8. And I'm going to tell you, they are all very good scouts. I like the Chinese scouts. These 3 premiums are more, maybe minus the Type 62, but especially the Type 64 and the Walker Bulldog are more traditional kinds of scouts, whereas these, especially at the WZ-131 and above, are more kind of combat scouts. But the Walker Bulldog is able to do a little bit of both. So no other real tech tree considerations to worry about there. All right, the 3D model, the favorite part of some of my community contributor compatriots. They love it when you go to tanks.gg and spend an hour. There's not much armor to this thing. Not really, 47, 36. The mantlet will get you some bounces, so it's strong. It does have what appears to be spaced armor side skirts, and when you look at this, it is actually a thicker armor number than the Walker Bulldog model will show. So there is some capability, it looks like, armor-wise on the side skirts. I'm assuming it's spaced armor in there, but somebody else would have to dig a little deeper on that one. But as you can see, it's not really going to bounce a whole lot, other than maybe the mantlet or goofy angles. It does have enough weird curvature all around it, especially on the turret, that you might get some auto bounce angles, but obviously you're not going to rely on that kind of thing. Let's move on. Well, here's where it gets kind of interesting on the comparison. Initially, I was only going to compare it against the other Tier 8 premiums, one of them being the 4190 GF, which is basically the same tank with a bigger gun. But as I started to look at it, I got curious about where it actually stacked up with the rest of them, because it seemed like it was so much better than the other premiums that had to really be crushing the rest of the tech tree tanks. And that is kind of where we are with this thing, to be quite honest. I'm at a bit of a loss here. I realize that the new premiums tend to be better and better and better, and that's kind of the road we've been going on. A couple of them lately haven't been quite as overpowered as some before, and I hesitate to use the word overpowered. That's not what I'm calling this thing, but it is very, very good, and it makes me wonder more and more about why anyone would go down the tech trees when the premiums are just so much better. And then you add on top the experience and the extra credits, and you wonder why anyone would play anything else. It's kind of like, hey, free to play guys, go over there go play with your tech tree silly tanks, and the rest of us will get these good tanks and beat you up with them. So is it head and shoulders above? No, it is not. But let's look at the numbers, because it does have quite a few advantages and virtually no weaknesses as compared to some of these other tech tree especially, and even some of the premium tanks. Now, it's interesting that firepower shows 359. That's Wargaming's number. Let me backtrack slightly. Remember that I make these tanks all 100% cruise with nothing else added. No equipment, 100% cruise with no perks or skills, no food, no paint. Obviously, in the case of the 90 GF, I can't take the paint off, for example. But otherwise, it should be a straight-up 100% crew for the tech tree tanks there at their top modules. So that's what we've got. Which then shows us that the 41D, according to Wargaming, has the best firepower of them all. Well, yeah, because its DPM is well above most, minus the 4190 GF. Now, here's the thing about that comparison. The 4190 GF was changed when the Scout matchmaker changed. A lot of the tech tree scouts were moved around and changed, but the premium tanks were left the way they were. The 4190 GF well overperforms at Tier 8 as a Tier 8 Scout. And now we've got this new one that looks, especially numbers-wise, to be actually better than a tank that simply wasn't touched because it was a premium. And now we've created a new premium that's better than a tank that wasn't touched because it was a premium and should have been. So that's a bit concerning. But the reload time, 4.41, we got 13.6. Near the top of the fire rate. The T92 fires faster, but of course it hits not quite as hard at 150. 170 average damage. This is where the big difference between the 90 GF and the 41D is, that the 41D is carrying a 76 millimeter and the 90 GF is carrying a 90 millimeter. He's got a really good alpha at 240 and not too far off on the average DPM. So I still think the 4190 is a better Scout overall than the 41 Delta, but it's not very far off, and there is an argument to be made that the 41 Delta is slightly better. -9 on the depression, whereas the Walker Bulldog's got -10, and the 91 GF has -8. Anywhere from 8 and above is very comfortable in this game, based on the way the designs are mapped. I suppose it sort of is the way the designs are mapped, but the way the maps are designed, and it has -9. Strangely, for some reason, the Chinese lose a point of depression and elevation with this slightly modified new gun that's basically a copy of the same gun. Balance decisions. They're attempting to balance the tank based on some of these other stats being better in little ways, so they chopped off a degree. I don't think you're going to notice a lot of difference between 10 and 9, though. Aiming time is really fast. Really fast. That's pretty amazing. It's considerably better. If you look at that, that's a significant number. 0.30 more, 0.31 to be precise, better, slightly less. See, I can't do math. Somewhere around 0.3. Let's better than the 4190 GF with, again, the average DPM being really good. And the dispersion, best in class. Oh, okay. So where's the downside on this tank so far? I'm not seeing one, and I haven't even talked about it having best in class pen with its standard APCR, by the way, I believe, standard round. Its gold round gets up to, I want to say, 225 or 7, somewhere in there, which is comparable to the rest of them. So as far as its firepower goes, I would agree with Wargaming's number. They have created a tank, a light tank, with tons better capability with its gun. All right, maybe I'm overstating it. Maybe it's not tons, but it is certainly better than the rest of them, in my mind, minus the alpha between it and the 4190 GF. Now, it's a whole picture thing, so what else do we have to look at? We have to look at survivability. It's tied for best on hit points, but everyone else is within 100 or 50. Armor, we talked about, it doesn't have any. So in the case of things like a comparison to the LT-432, where you're going to bounce stuff off the hull and quite a bit off the turret, the M41 just simply does not have that. Mobility is okay. You can see that it'll do 65. The regular Bulldog will do 68, so they chopped off a whole 3 kilometers an hour. That'll show it. That'll really balance it right. It's 5 less than the 432. I found it to be quite sprightly. I didn't find it to be sluggish at all. Anything doing 65 or more in this game is going to get you where you want to be. And its terrain resistance seemed fine. It could spin around really well. So I had no trouble maneuvering this thing at all. And I say that while I've been battling these new wheeled vehicles, right? So those things are running everywhere, and this has not had too hard of a time dealing with it. In fact, its HE round for the 76 millimeter is actually pretty darn good. Pretty darn good for a 76 millimeter. Concealment is a little bit low, but all the Bulldogs aren't too great. Although why the German one is at 17 and these two are down at 14, I don't know. It makes no realistic sense, but it does make balancing sense. So take those kind of things with a grain of salt. And then 390 on the view range is okay. Obviously at the bottom of these piers. No, that's not true. There's some 380s out there. There's some 380s. The Russian and the WZ-132 are at 380 and it hits 390, so no real big problem. And look at that fantastic signal range. That's important. You got to have that signal range. No, you don't. Not at this tier. Signal range saturation happens, I don't know, probably what, tier 5 or 6 or so, where it just stops mattering. So, what would you hang your hat on in this? Well, it's good. It is. It's at the top or near the top of its class. It has no real weaknesses, to be quite honest, unless you want to call the 170 Alpha a weakness, which it really isn't, because if you look at the rest of them, they're down around there as well. And when you combine that with its DPM being top of class, who cares? You know, it doesn't have that finishing shot like the 90 GF does, but it certainly dishes it out. And as fast as the T92 fires, as fast as it fires, it only gets up to 2086. It's crazy. Very good. All right, let's move on to my stats. This will be fun. So how did I do in those whole 4 games that I played in it? Well, I am the master of the M41 Delta. 4 games, 4 wins, 1,410 average XP. My damage causes 1,860 average and 1,222 assist. I am the greatest M41 Delta driver. I think if we extrapolate that out to 10, 20, 100 battles, I will have 100% in all of them. No. I stopped at 4 because after I played it 4 times, I have a lot of battles in the regular 41, the regular Walker Bulldog. Basically the same tank, just a premium version, and I got a good feel for it. Obviously, these stats in another 4 games, if I could easily lose 4 in a row, and they would come down to something more like the rest of my tier 8s. But after 4 games, I already knew this was going to be very comparable, if not slightly better than the rest of my tier 8 light tank. So not a whole lot to learn from the stats on such a low sample size. I guess virtually nothing to learn. Other than to understand, if you've played the Walker Bulldog or the 90 GF, 4190 GF, it's very, very similar to both of those, obviously. All right, let's look at my setup. For my setup, you can see I've got a pretty good crew. It's a 2 skill plus crew at 76 on the 3rd skill. Brothers in Arms, the requisite 6 cents, got recon, and it's more or less a kind of a combat setup. You're looking at smooth ride, you're looking at snapshot, with concealment being the third thing. Because it's Chinese crew, I leaned more towards the combat side of things with those. You can see it is actually a WZ-132-1 crew that's in there. And I already talked about the crew position, so pretty standard setup as far as that goes, although, again, concealment is the third thing that I've done. As far as the rest of it, there are no modules to worry about. Obviously, it comes full up. I'm running a rammer, I'm running vents, and I'm running optics. I usually run a camo net and binocs on a lot of my scouts, if you watch my reviews or my scout play, because I really like the passive scouting capability of the binocs. Even though that meta has passed years and years ago, I just enjoy that. For this one, I decided, well, let's just do the Chinese thing and be more of a offensive kind of combat scout guy. So we'll throw the optics, so I've always got a little bit of bonus no matter what I'm doing. And I'll use food. So let's throw food. We're not even going to use a fire extinguisher. The American tanks are a bit iffy on that, so, you know, you'll do that to taste or do that at your own discretion, whether you like being lit in fire. In 4 games, obviously, I did not get lit on fire, but I suspect I would be at some point pretty soon. But I'm running large kits and food. So total try-hard mode as far as making this thing as good a combat scout as I can right there. You could trade this out. I think it has a vert stab, I want to say. So if you really wanted to get crazy, you could put a vert stab. But I found the accuracy to be good enough that with the food and the vents and the Brothers in Arms, that wasn't really a thing that I needed to worry about. So the regular APCR, you can see right there. Take a look at the gun, 227, right? So for the other APCR, the gold APCR, gets you up to 227. But that 192 is really nice as a baseline. And you'll see that HE that I talked about, 260 average damage for a 76 millimeter is actually pretty darn good. That makes counter scout stuff pretty nice. So let's move on to a couple examples, and then we'll wrap her up. For the first example, you can see that I'm top tier on proc. This was my first battle, and I got proc right off the bat, top tier. I'm thinking, oh man, that is about as lucky matchmaker RNG-wise as you go. So we have a lot of the wheels running around, wheeled tanks. There's 2 on their side, there's 2 on our side, and there's this massive scout scrum, which seems to be kind of the temporary meta right now. There's just scouts and medium tanks raging around, shooting each other as people learn the wheeled vehicles. So take this gameplay a little bit less about the meta and a little bit more just about this tank. It was very comfortable. I played the Walker Bulldog a lot. I have tons of games in the M41GF. So I really felt immediately comfortable in this tank. Not a lot of a learning curve as far as what it can do and what it can't do, maneuver-wise, depression, all of those kinds of things. And that's another one of the reasons why I just decided to stop at 4 games and knock out this review for you guys. It kind of goes without saying, I think most people can immediately know all of those things, but if you're thinking, well, I'm not sure, unfortunately I ran my own guy, sorry about that, dude. Looking towards the enemy and hit him. So if you're thinking, well, I'm waiting for a review, alright, if you have Walker Bulldog experience, you're going to be very comfortable in this. If you don't, you're still going to be very comfortable in it because it doesn't really have any bad vices. If it had one, you might say it's a little bit sluggish in the maneuver, but look at it, it's just zinging around. I don't have any trouble doing what I need to do right here as a scout. So we're going to work this middle ridge. You can see the scrum that's going on. We have a huge push over on the 1-2 line, and 2 of our wheels are moving right up in there. So I'm trying to follow up, fade over to the right, and see if I can't get some shots on some of these guys. I see that Sturv. I'd really love to get rid of that guy. Let's drop one in on him. 50-2 is sitting there, sort of ignoring the little scouts that are still raging around here. 3601 dies. There's that Sturv again, so we'll come up so we can get another shot on this guy. Zoom in. See how fast it just zooms. It's really nice. A little bit different for a 76mm as far as accuracy and zoom, because you know you play the Easy 8 and some of the other American tanks with the earlier versions of it, and it can be quite derpy actually at range. This one is just much more comfortable, so the Taiwanese have perfected, somehow they've perfected the 76mm much past the American capability. There goes the 50-2, he ends up dying. Poor Tier 6 attempting to take on the Tier 8 and all the guys camping in the back. Whoa, someone shooting at that guy on the other side of me. Must have been the KV-2. That looks like a KV-2 shell that went in right there. So we're just cruising around, trying to spot 472 damage, 393 spotting so far. We got a decent lead. It's not one by any means, but we're up 3-2-1. We got artillery falling around. There's a wheeled tank going over to our east flank. I considered going and getting him, but if the 45 TP and that other medium over there can't handle him, then we got bigger problems. And he's about dead anyway. That's something you're seeing a lot of, just the YOLO of the wheeled tank. So we're going to go ahead and poke us one into the side of the... No, we're going to miss the Chi-Ri. This will get him, right? No, this will get nothing. This will get us track because it went low. And there we go. And, what? Oh, I did hit him. Okay. You can see it can drop the rounds downrange pretty quick. So we'll drop a couple more in towards him. And now I'm seeing that we're pushing well up on the west side. So we'll just come in here and support these dudes. And unfortunately, I just take way too long trying to get a shot on that stir. I got a guy right here next to me keeping me honest, poking up. A little bit of a rushed shot on that guy. And I'm kind of missing out on the fun over there. Finally, that scout in front of me dies, and now I've got a little more freedom to start dropping them in. 45 TP is in big trouble. He's getting hit by everybody. And then all of a sudden, I get hit by this comet. This guy has been a thorn in my side the whole game. Every time I show up, he's up there shooting at me. So we'll come off of that, come back over here, and see if we can't start working on this comet. And initially, I was going to come over and just jump on him, but I thought, well, there's too many guns still free back there. He already hits him and makes it a little bit more comfortable to do so. I'm still thinking about it right here, and then here comes the wheel tank, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I hadn't stopped. Looks like this guy's just going to do one of these runners, which is what that tank is really good at, so I'll just follow him up. Unfortunately, he died, but I'm able to exact some revenge on the Comet, who misses that last shot. Chi-Ri gets a piece of me, and then down he goes. Both of us having a little miss towards the end there. And back to surfing the middle and trying to figure out where it is I can get in behind these guys. I noticed that the east flank, they've cleared it off. There's a Lynx running around in the middle. I know there's a Chi-Ri up there, and I know he's hurt, so I feel like I need to go try to get rid of that dude. I'm really hoping he's not poking over the edge. Looks like he was maybe looking that way a bit, because some shots come in. There's a couple of them. Might have been an arty on one of those. Just trying to weave and keep this Chi-Ri from jumping on me with his clip of 3. Those things can really dish out some pain in those 3 little shots. And it actually, the Chi-Ri clip reloads pretty quickly too, so if you don't take him down, you're going to eat another 3. And I want to say like 9 seconds. But we'll come up here. I know he's hurt, so let's use our scout capability and find him before he finds us. Put a shot on him. Not enough to kill him. He takes a shot, minimizing the exposure, and we'll take him. So there you go. Some of the good mobility of the Walker Bulldog that exists with the 41 Delta. I was messing around in the middle, and I was able to flex over to this side. Now here's the gun depression working for you. Just a little bit of the tank exposed. I can come to these bushes and spaz around and take terrible, terrible shots. Just, if I can stay back from this bush, he's not going to see me. There we go. And get another one maybe on him. As no, I just raised the gun up, and maybe there's an example right there of the potential for the difference between a -9 and -10 degree gun depression. You know, I talked about that earlier. I said, there's no difference. Well, you know, sometimes that 1 degree may have made a difference. The KV2 goes down. We're at 1,683, 617 assist, and it's all over but the shouting here. Now it's just going in here and trying to pick up. Holy cow! And they're 6x6 flexed over here. He must have noticed me doing this or had the same idea I did. So I go after that already, and unfortunately, now he comes out, and I'm like, holy cow, and he just ran him and put another shot into him, and somehow, and then the M12 kills me off. And we ended up with 1,986, 779 assists on the first game. And the Walker Bulldog on an open scouting map. So as you can see, it is as capable as any other Tier 8 scout out there, light tank, with the additional capability of the extra experience and crew training for any of your Chinese light crews, and credits. Let's move on to the second example. All right, here's the second example. I just realized that my little symbols were over on top of the mini-map, so apologies, but I don't think you really needed too much of that on that last game. Here we are on Glacier. I'm running the HE for giggles. Again, top tier. I got it. I'm going to take hits. Somebody's going to comment, well, you just showed us 2 top tier games and blah, 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 blah. But look, it's a Walker Bulldog, man. There's just not a lot to say different about it. I'm going to catch some poor guy, some poor schmo up here. And there's an HE shell at 290. There's another one going in at 231. And then we'll kill him with the third one. And then I eat a shot from the VK2801 right there. But you can see I wanted to show that because there is some good capability with the HE shell on this thing. It can reach out and touch somebody. Give them a little HE love right there. And just like that, 570 off of 3 shots. Not too bad. Would have been more, obviously, had there been more hit points for the tank that was there. The wheeled tank that I was shooting. And that's what you get for not loading in on time. So work the middle. The artillery is, I don't know if he's missing another light or he's actually going after me. Probably going after me, so we'll try to put a shot right here into the 4190, and that's H-POW Annihilator. I've dealt with him a few times. He's on the forum, as I recall. I might have even done some replays. I think he sent some replays in. Another artillery hit, so the M44 seems to be following me. So I decided let's disappear from him for a minute, and I saw H-POW headed over this way. I'm thinking I'm not really sure what his plan is here, but I see him doing that. I think, well, he really seems committed, so I'm just going to back up and catch him on one of these openings here. He seems to be intent on getting through, and I don't know if he's just crazy, giving up, or just feels like YOLO. But whatever the reason is, he's doing it. Shoot him a couple times in the back, and he's trying to get up on this hill and head towards these guys. Spotting damage. Let's see. There we go. Oh, what the? Don't know what happened. Those last few shots just got away from me. The Eagle 7 shifted over, which is irritating. And I put a shot onto the 20-1, who seems to be unable to miss. And I missed the Su-100 that's sitting up there. Pretty even game, but then I noticed that we sent nobody north. Look at the campination we have going on. I mean, we just have a serious camping team. It's incredible. Even the IS-6 is back there, so the ONI, the 252U, a T-20, oh, good God. All kinds of guys, so I'm going to take a chance and head up this hill and see if I can't start working on them. This Eagle 7 is looking at us. I take a shot, I get spotted. Ouch. Knew that was going to happen. But what I'm more curious about is what is going on with those guys. And I think, well, let's not poke over the edge. Let's see if we can work on this Eagle 7. But then he disappears. I'm thinking, well, how did he disappear? Where'd he go? He must be behind the rock right there. The Leo can't see him, but he's shooting back. You can see the shells hitting the ground right there. So, for whatever reason, I can't see him. I don't want to expose myself with only 450 hit points. And I noticed that the 4 enemy tanks are actually around the corner right there. So it appears that I'm not going to get surprised. Hard to use the carrier at times. I'm going to come up here and try to trick the Eagle 7. See if I can show up somewhere different, maybe get a shot on. And I'm looking, and I don't. How do I not see him? I don't see him. Sort of sitting up here exposed like a Goomba, and I get spotted. So I'm very lucky. Oof. Very lucky he didn't get aimed in faster than that. And it looks like that wheeled tank went back behind me and caught me up there. So that's what spotted me. Spin around. I'm thinking about the Eagle 7. I say, well, let's go over here and see if we can't find one of the campers up by the cap. Maybe I can just pop up here, get a shot on somebody. What do we got here? Oh, there goes that guy. I back up because he just saw the tip of my tank. And as I was looking at the mini-map, I figured I'm the only one who would have seen him. So he actually saw my spotting point at the top of my turret. I saw his, lit each other, so I'll back out of that as fast as possible. Thought about going down this. You can go down that part if you're very, very careful. But there's an ONI. So even if I go down there and put a couple shells in him at 460 hit points, I will be exterminated. And then I see him backing up a little bit, so I'm thinking, great. We'll just wait for him to show up. Come here, Oni. I went to the APCR gold version. What is it Wargaming wants us to call it? Special ammo or something like that? I don't know. They're trying to change the name of it. There's another shot into him. We'll back up. He's looking at me. He gets hit from over there. Then he turns his turret, so I'm going to take that opportunity to poke out and get another shot on him. And then he wisely turns it back, and unfortunately I hit it into the face of the turret. And now he's basically a two-shot, but he's looking at me. He's moving that way and expects me to come from that direction. So I'm going to stop right here. Kind of rock back and forth. Then once he goes dark, I know I'm dark to him, so I'm just going to go ahead and say, hello. He's looking over there. And then I'm like, oh, he's really not paying attention at all. There, now he saw me, but too late. He goes down. Poor guy. So the Leo and I are still up here, and looking at the mini-map, I'm going to figure, you know what, I'm on a light tank. I need to get my eyes off of this hill. We did what we could do over here. I'm hoping I don't get hit by the Eagle 7 as I come down, but I need really to find him and start working the edges. There he is, so we'll dodge down here, we'll dodge left. I do have to be cognizant of the artillery. He's still a problem. I think, well, maybe I can sneak up here and get a shot on him. I do have to be careful for other TDs. Nah, I don't want to do that. No, yes I do. There we go. There's somebody to shoot. Oh, wait a minute. There he is. There's a shot. Sees me. And I back out. And I'm lucky he didn't hit me. He actually fired before I started trying to get away. Got a little greedy on the second shot right there. There's the artillery. I'm hoping I have a shot, but I don't. Looking for the Su-100. He's not there. And it's a bit tricky. I see the AMX or AMD 178 Bravo over there, and he's got their attention. So I'm just hoping one of them exposes themselves trying to come at him. The Su-100 is going that way, but he's gonna have to come pretty far forward and down that hill before I can get a shot. So that's a bit worrisome. Then artillery hammers him, lights him on fire, and down he goes. So some spotting damage for the AMD. And the Eagle 7 remains the problem child. This is the guy we need to get rid of. I get spotted again doing that. Probably the Eagle 7. I know if I cross that open area right there, I am going to be seen. I considered going the long way around, but I felt like that was just going to take too long based on everything kind of hanging in the balance. And then I noticed the 304 being dopey, and I thought he was going to cross. I said, oh, he'll cross, get that guy's attention, I'll pop out, but he doesn't. The wheeled vehicle is still trolling around, and I'm just trying to find where on earth is that Eagle 7. And then we lose the Hellcat to the Su-130 PM, and then we lose the wheeled vehicle, and then we got this guy out in the open. So I'm thinking, got him. No, I don't have him. He survives that shot. I've unwisely used all my gold on some tanks I didn't need to use it on. Missed the Jackson. Miss him again. A little bit of, I'm not really sure what's going on with my gunnery. A little bit of spasticness there. Then the 130 PM goes down. That was a good kill. So once we got rid of that gun, the rest of them we can handle. None of them are going to obliterate me in one shot. So I can take one hit from any of them. That's a good thing. That gives me a few more options. I'm just trying to find this Eagle 7. I need my eastern flank to fold in a little bit so we can kind of get a couple more shots. And then I notice the FB is getting up and aggressive. Unfortunately, he can't really take a hit. So I'll go the long way around. See the Eagle 7 lit. Now I'll cut back and try to get the angle on this guy. There we go. Take a shot, leave him 2 hit points, and then he dies. So a 152 is a really kind of low roll. There's the ARL. I see him. I probably should have stopped right there. I was a little bit worried that the Jackson would have been pointed at me by that time, but the ARL goes down quickly, and then the T-28 Proto takes. Alright folks, that is it. Down and dirty review of the Tier 8 Chinese M41D Premium Light Tank. Should have just been released. Buy it. Get out there and buy it. I'm shilling. Spend all your... I'm just kidding. Buy it if you want it. It's good. It is. It's better than... I think it's probably the best Tier 8 light tank. There's an argument for that to be the LT-432 or the 4190 GF. If you don't like me saying the 41 Delta is better, then I think you really have to accept that it is as good as either one of those. I think it's better than the T92. I like the T92. It's a fun tank. But I think the 41 Delta is a better all-round tank than the T92. And, you know, I only did 4 battles. Usually I do 20. I do that for a reason. I want to get a good feel, give you guys good information out there. But this is a copy pasta tank. So I don't really think that was even required out there. If you've run the Bulldog, you can run this thing just fine. And it works for your Chinese crews. So, you know, I can't come here and tell you, hey, it's terrible, because it's not. I can't come here and say, don't buy it, because I wouldn't say that anyway. If you want to buy it, buy it. It's a good, solid Tier 8 premium tank, light tank. So enjoy. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Take it easy, and we will see you.